Welcome to the Supplement Engineer Podcast. My name is Robert Schnetsky, broadcasting from our bunker 50 feet below the surface of the earth to be coronavirus free. And joining me as always, it's my partner in crime for these Thursday banter sessions, Justin Hall of Supplement Snoop. We're at it again, man. Corona, come hell or high water, we're going to do this podcast until we die.
Yeah, man. And people are like, Justin, like, how are you dealing with all this? Like, how is this affecting your life? I'm like, yeah, not really. They just finally shut the gyms down. That's really about the only thing that's sort of affected. And I just basically sit here and work as I've been doing for the last year, basically. So I've been self-quarantining for a long time. So this is basically just a formality at this point.
Yeah, it's par for the course. Well, both of our wives work in the education sector. And so since school has been canceled, she's spending a little bit more time at home with you. So that might be a small adjustment, but it's one that we are both happy to have. So that's a good thing.
I agree, man. It is right. That's people. We're going to get in a relationship counseling thing right here, but it's like a lot of people, they're good because they don't spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we're not like that. We're better the more time we spend together. So
Agreed.
Yeah, because she's working from home and I'm working from home, and it is what it is. But dog's happy. He always has somebody to play with.
Excellent. Yeah, and the daycare is still open, thank God. So that allows me to be productive during the day too. So they said they're going to keep open until somebody walks in there and locks the door shut. So that's good.
Yeah, I kind of had that dilemma yesterday, and this was the first time I actually thought of it because the gym was still open.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually got up yesterday morning and I was like, just because the gym's open, should I go?
Yeah.
And I still went, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, maybe I should stay home. Like, do I really need to get this last, workout? Well, I didn't know that they were closing at the time, but it's like, just because it is still open, should I go? I don't know. It kind of came across my mind for the first time yesterday. So,
yeah.
Because there's a lot of, older people that live in this town. It's a retiree spot just because of taxes and stuff like that are great here.
Well, that's fitting now, considering your age and everything, your advanced aging and all of that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been preparing for a while. People are like, oh, Justin. I'm like, dude, I think about these things years in advance.
Yep.
So don't worry about it, man. But yeah, because my responsibility, I was like, do I really need to keep, and then you're sort of putting other people at risk. And
yeah.
But I still went because I'm a dick, so whatever.
That's fine, yeah. Daycare has enacted various protocols, they're not letting parents walk the kids back there anymore. They're having one of the teachers meet us up. They're scanning everybody that walks in the door with a thermometer to make sure there's no fever or anything like that, too. So, and, as a thank you to them for staying open, because a lot of the schools started shutting down here in Texas as of last week, and they said, we're staying open. So, I brought them breakfast this morning. I'm going to do that again next week, just as kind of like a little token of appreciation, saying, hey,
please keep taking my kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's, yeah, man, very much appreciative for the people at the Goddard School of Lakeway for remaining open during this time. So that's awesome.
Father of the Year, I'm going to bribe you to keep taking my kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect. That's what I do. Hey, you know what? Money, donuts, and breakfast tacos solve everything.
I agree, man. I agree. Yeah.
Well, that and bourbon, but I can't give them bourbon, since they're actually watching children. So otherwise, there would be a case of bourbon with them too.
Speaking of, I got some.
You found some Blantons, you dirty bastard, which is not found around here.
Oh, really?
I've asked 3 different liquor stores, and they said you got to be on a special list or something to even be. There's 1,000-person waiting list to get a bottle of Blantons around this area for some reason.
Really?
Yeah. It's absurd.
There's a few bottles, though. As you can see, I put a little dent in it over the last couple of days.
Just a little bit. Are you enjoying it straight up on the rocks, mixed with anything, or
a little bit of ice? I think if you were to mix something with this, you'd be an asshole. I think because it's like, man, just use something because it's like this was like $90, which there are still quite a few bottles at there's a liquor store right by us that has a lot of good bourbons, and they still had a few bottles, so. I might grab another one. Too bad I can't ship you one, but
yeah,
we'll figure out a way at some point. Because it seems like there's actually a lot of places around here. They have a lot of rare stuff that a lot of people can't get. So that's interesting. I'll have to keep that in mind. Maybe I'll see what I can do there.
Very cool. All right, man. Well, let's get into some of the supplement banter for this week, and we're going to start off by giving a shout out to my Polish brother from another mother, Mr. Lucas Rutkowski, over there at Prometheus Nutrition sent you and me a very sweet package from Apollo's Hegemony of their goodies. So we got the Mastermind, which is their. This is what I got. I don't know if you and I got different stuff or not, but Mastermind is their powdered nootropic. We got Game Over, which is their capsule nootropic, which I've never messed around. So this is
we got to talk about that one.
Yeah, we'll come back to that one in a second. We got Blitzkrieg, which is it's lower caffeinated, but it's got all the fun stimulants in it. So it's got yohimbine, it's got DMHA, and a couple of other really cool things in there. And we've got Stim Punch, which, as the name implies, it's something that's gonna light your balls on fire, as Rage Nick would say. And this is also got theanine in it to give you a little bit of that edge off, and some Kana as well. So yeah, man, what was your package? How was your package?
I got the same thing. I think there were some protein samples.
Yeah, there are some protein samples in here. It's called, what's this? MZ Way, which is their birthday chocolate, and Genesis, which is another kind of stem pill, which is cognitive boost. Apollo's Hegemony does a lot of mental boosting stuff, man. They've got a ton of shit in here.
Yep. So yeah, we got the same exact package. Yeah. I tried Blitzkrieg. I tried Mastermind, and I think that's it so far. Mastermind is cool. I really like Mastermind, especially we're in this time where supplements have kind of changed a little bit, like what I'm sort of going towards, because you're working from home, the nootropic sort of thing. So I've been using Mastermind.
Yeah.
I used it, I think, the last 2 days, and I really like that one. Blitzkrieg to me was good. And I don't know if it's because the theanine was in Stim Punch, right? I can't remember the Blitzkrieg formula off the top of my head, but it's got DMHA. I didn't get that from it. It was good. It was good and energetic, but I don't get that
over the top.
I don't know, man. For me, I get a lot of the same kind of vibe from a lot of DMHA formulas lately, anyway. But I definitely get different vibes from UK products than I do USA products.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
In terms of the potency or the stim punch, tongue in cheek.
There's a lot of UK formulas, man, that I see, and they're amazing formulas, but I just don't get it. I don't get it doesn't play out the way you would expect. And not to say good or bad or indifferent, it's just different. Because Blitzkrieg was it was good energy, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't I didn't get the DMHA, but I get that. I think that's common anymore. Even when I use alpha lines like Superhuman Supreme and stuff that was still using DMHA, I don't get the DMHA vibe from that. I think it's just we're not getting what we used to get.
Right. And the actual stuff that you're going to find is probably not going to be around.
Although, right, UK, everything's still fine. It's fine to use DMHA, right?
Yeah, I would assume so. But, I mean, I'm sure they're getting their raws from China, too, and, we're all pulling from the same pool, so who knows whether it's actually quality DMHA or, could be 1,4 DMAA that's just labeled as DMHA just to capitalize on that, so.
100%, but I really like Mastermind. I am a big fan of that one.
Let's run through the ingredient profile on that.
Yeah, I got it right here.
We've got a gram of Alcar. We've got 600 milligrams of alpha GPC, 500 of phenylalanine, which is going to be the precursor for tyrosine, dopamine, and all that good stuff. 500 milligrams of lion's mane, 350 of NALT, 200 milligrams of theanine, 200 milligrams of caffeine, 150 of bacopa, yielding 20% bacosides, 50 milligrams of Kana, 50 milligrams of estrogen, and 20 milligrams of Huperzine A, which is going to give you 200 micrograms of the actual Huperzine alkaloid that you want. So yeah, all in all, a very robust formula. And 30 servings per container too, which is nice.
Yep. I really liked this formula when I saw it. And, there's something interesting. I was having this conversation with someone that we know quite well in the industry, and he was talking about not thinking that Huperzine A, because there's some sleep aids that have Huperzine A and some choline sources in them.
Yeah.
And their thought process. He's like, I don't think Huperzine A belongs in a pre-workout. And it was actually a really good, like, the way Huperzine A keeps acetylcholine levels raised, but at the same time, there's that. He said the loss of the mind-muscle connection for me is where I don't agree with them being in pre-workouts. And I thought that was interesting, and it's actually true. When you think about it, it's sort of, if it's going to keep you in that stimulated state where you're not able to maybe receive new transmissions, you would think, it makes sense. It's like, maybe that's not a good idea to have in a pre-workout. But he was making a case for it in the sleep aid, how it keeps. It was just a really interesting conversation, one that I want to keep going in the future, because I've noticed a couple of sleep aids that I really like have Huperzine in them. And it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting approach, a little different take than what I think you've sort of been critical of, just everyone throwing Huperzine A and Huperzine A. It's just like...
Yeah. And just from a performance standpoint, I find tyrosine to be a better fit in a pre-workout setting than specifically Huperzine. If I'm engaging in some cognitively demanding tasks, and training in and of itself is cognitively demanding to a certain extent, but if I'm sitting down for 6 hours to work on some, multi-thousand word article or something like that, I like the Huperzine in that application. I like tyrosine more because there's more anti-fatigue, anti-stress benefits that have been backed up in exercise protocols and cognitively demanding tasks associated with exercise and physical performance with tyrosine than with Huperzine. And I love the ingredient. I think it's kind of overused. Just kind of like beta-alanine. Everybody's just, well, let's just throw Xamon in there, and that's fine. That'll cover our bases for saying focus and energy. And I also don't understand it entirely in sleep aids, just because it can have a somewhat neurostimulatory effect in some people. It'll waken you up just due to its actions in the brain. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the point that you raise about messing with the mind-muscle connection or muscle firing, because acetylcholine is involved in muscle contractions. So you would think by increasing its levels in the body and preventing its decline, it would, I guess, give a bigger pool for acetylcholine to be, which would help promote stronger muscle contractions or longer lasting ones possibly. But maybe there's some interference since it can't be broken down as efficiently.
Yeah. So this was kind of interesting, and this is where I'll get to with this mastermind, is I noticed that I really like when a nootropic or something that I'm going to use sort of just around the house or while I'm working.
Yeah. Because
it's like when I use a choline donor plus Huperzine A, a lot of it is from the neck up. Man, you feel it. You feel, and which can be beneficial, like when you're in the gym, but there is sort of like that mind muscle. It was just kind of an interesting new take. It was interesting to hear someone that has a really big background in science and sort of gets it. He was kind of like pushing back against this thing that we just sort of accepted.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's interesting. Interesting enough where I'm like, hey, maybe this is something worth looking into, talking to other people and things like that too. Where especially as we've noticed, when you have too many acetylcholinesterase inhibitors in the pre-workout, you can actually ultimately just ruin your workout.
Yeah, you just feel tired and fatigued, or just kind of blah, or in a haze.
So anyway, it was kind of interesting. Something maybe in the future we can talk about. But I think the only tiny little thing that I could say about this, I would rather see tyrosine than malt. But
yeah.
This thing is good. I really, really like this product. So
yeah, super solid.
You haven't tried it yet?
No, I have to. I've done one serving of it so far. I haven't done it multiple because there was a couple of other things I've got to work my way through as well. So I've done one serving of the Mastermind. I really liked it. I mean, it's got a good ratio of everything in it. As you said, we could prefer to have the better form of tyrosine in there, and I would like to see maybe a little bit more of Bacopa, just because you want that 40 to 45% standardization of the bacosides in there and the 300 milligram dose, but that's something that needs to be taken. Most of the data shows that you need to take it, for upwards of 3, 4, 5 weeks before you really start to get those memory enhancing benefits of it. So.
Yeah, and let's be honest too. This is, like you said, it's a 30 serving tub.
Yeah.
If this was 20 servings for the price, maybe then you're going to see more Bacopa. You're going to see regular tyrosine, maybe bigger. But when you're getting 30 full servings in here, there's going to have to be some sort of balance because this is, I mean, alpha GPC is expensive, Alcar is expensive, Lion's Meat, well, I don't know if
and we don't know if that's the 50% yield of alpha GPC or are we getting actually 600 milligrams of actual alpha GPC. And I know that that boils down to how it's specifically labeled on there. So that would be something we would probably need to reach out to the guys at Apollo's and get some clarification on. But going the last point on the NULT thing, you got the phenylalanine in there, so could that maybe make up for some of the lack of bioavailability and convertibility of NULT to L-tyrosine? Possibly. I mean, but it's at that point that there's so much other stuff going on in the formula. You can't really counteract and say, well, if this was bumped up to 1 or 2 grams of tyrosine, it would be this much better, or you would feel it this much harder. There's so many things going on in that formula already that it can skirt by.
Right. And what I didn't notice is they have a lot of products.
Yeah, they do. And for some reason, they don't just. They're talked about a lot on Stack 3D, but they don't seem to be as big over here.
They didn't even have an Instagram page. Really? I was like, how is that even possible?
Weird.
But so I don't see a price on here because I wanted to see. So if it's 30 full servings, I mean, this in the United States, you're looking at this would be $60
Easily,
for some. You're going to see at least a $2 per serving price tag on here. I would say at least. So that's why you're going to see. You would see in the U.S. You would see this at 20 servings, for $40.
Yeah.
Or $45. So the fact that they do 30 servings and from using it, I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no prices listed on their site, which I'm assuming maybe they don't sell directly through their site and they only go through the distribution network.
Mm-hmm. Would make sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk about their gamer. I have not tried the gaming supplement yet. It's called
Gamer. The Game Over.
Game Over.
Yeah, so we got each capsule there's 50 capsules in here, and each capsule contains 100 milligrams of caffeine, 100 milligrams of theanine, 300 milligrams of alpha GPC, and 10 milligrams of Sunifiram, which is a synthetic derivative of piracetam. So it's kind of in that Nupept category of compounds. It's an ampakine. So it's going to give you that heightened mental alertness, that tunnel vision kind of focus, and that you're amped up. I mean, it's an ampakine. I always feel amped up is the best way I describe it from a cognitive standpoint whenever I take something like Nupept or one of the other racetams.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I did an unboxing of these products on my Instagram stories, and I didn't look at the labels beforehand. I just started talking. It's funny because I get to this product and I'm like, okay, cool, it's caffeine, theanine, alpha GPC, and then I just pause and I'm like, I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there doesn't follow Will Wallace on Instagram, he's a must follow. His at Will the Wallace is on Instagram. Yeah. So I reached out to him. I'm like, dude, talking about this thing because. And he kind of said the same thing, and exactly like what you just said about Nupept. We know it works, but we don't know how it works. And he's like, honestly, when it comes down to if I don't know a mechanism of action, he's like, I can't really say a whole lot about it. He goes, I just know that anecdotally people seem to like it. He goes, but we don't know why. So it's just something you should know before you take it, that it works, and you might not have any idea why. So
exactly, yeah. It's got some activities on the NMDA receptors and glutaminergic neurotransmission. There's a little bit cholinergic activity, which you would suspect from a piracetam derivative, just like Nupept does and all of the other piracetam family, or the racetam family. So, yeah, and it's that 10 milligram dose. That's a solid dose for where, if you're like 150, 160 pound person, when you build out the milligram per kilogram to those kind of body weights, it's in the 5 milligram to 10 milligram range. So if you're in that 150 to 160, it's probably a good starting point that they only included 10 milligrams in one capsule because you'll be lit up.
So the good thing about this is, now that we're working from home, I actually picked up some I dusted off my PlayStation 4, and we'll be playing some more video games probably over the next couple weeks than
there
normal.
You go. There you go.
So I'm gonna put this bad boy to the test.
Excellent. Let's go down the video game rabbit hole. What kind of games did you play growing up, and what kind of games do you gravitate towards now?
Yep. Okay. So good question, man. I love playing video games, but I'm a very anti-social gamer. I don't play online stuff. Like I go to play video games usually to get away from people and just do nothing.
Well, I guess let's preface this that you and I both grew up in the era when there was not this massive online gaming stuff. I mean, both your first system was probably the regular Nintendo, I would guess. Like, that was mine, because that came out in 85 or 83, and I was born in 85, so I think I got my first Nintendo when I was 5 years old, so right around 1990, 91.
Okay, so shut the fuck up. My first system was an Atari, right?
Okay. I mean, you're a couple years older than me, so that makes sense.
Okay. No, so Atari sort of came out and was really cool, but I was really, really, like, no, all jokes aside, I was very young. So the first really system that, we really used was the Nintendo, the NES. Yeah. And, like Zelda and Mario, but I got into, like, my favorite Nintendo game, like, of all time, and I can't ever find it anymore, is it's called Dragon Warrior. It was, like, the first, like, role-playing game.
Yep.
Dude, that game is so great. I actually just I bought an emulator for you. Just basically plug a memory stick into your TV, right, and it's got like 500 Nintendo games on it.
Yep.
That game's not on there. I was so bummed.
I think. Well, this is something good to bring up. That names were often changed when they landed in America. So Dragon Warrior here, I believe that is Dragon Quest in Japan.
Yep.
And just like the Final Fantasy games here, so they had Final Fantasy, the original one, on regular Nintendo, which was Final Fantasy 1 in Japan. Our Super Nintendo Final Fantasy 2 and 3 were actually Final Fantasy 4 and 6 in Japan. So we never got the original 2 and 3 that were on the NES, or 5 that was on Super NES. But when PlayStation came around, Final Fantasy 7 was the same both in Japan and in America, and it's been that way since. And they've gone back and they released 2 different Final Fantasy collections on PlayStation where they brought back all of the original Final Fantasies from the NES and the Super NES days in their original formats with their original names, which I was a huge Final Fantasy fan. I like that more than Zelda. I was never a big Zelda fan. I like Final Fantasy games much more.
I probably stopped, though, with Final Fantasy, but then again, like, eventually I switched over to PlayStation.
Yeah.
But Final Fantasy, I would say Final Fantasy 2 was probably, like, one of the first games where I really got into playing that one. Yeah. And, like, played it, like, multiple times.
Right.
And but then it's funny, like, now, even with all the online stuff, like, I don't play Call of Duty, I don't play any of that stuff. I play, like, the last game I've been playing a lot was The Witcher. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people have seen that TV show.
Yeah.
The game and the TV show, it's all based on books.
Right.
But The Witcher 3 is one, oh my god, that video game is absolutely mind-blowing, awesome. Plus, you can play it like some of these video games you get now, these like open world ones. Yeah. You can play it for years.
Yeah, and I think
it's like
that's when I'm more or less checked out of video games, playing them regularly. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. My younger brother would play video games with me all the time when we were growing up, and then I guess it was right around like high school time is when like the first online gaming stuff started to come around with like Quake and Diablo and all of those. Or EverQuest, that's when I started. I just thought, I don't care. I've already bought the game. I'm not going to pay a monthly subscription to keep playing this game online with other people. I will play with 1 or 2 other people, or one of our friends had an N64, and we'd all get together and do Super Smash Brothers or Mario Kart 64 and all of that. So that's fine. But I've never gotten into the online thing. I would much rather just either do it by myself, play a platform or an RPG by myself, or do like a sports game or a battle melee or Street Fighter or something like that. If you and I were together, me and Philip, my brother. So.
Yep, and then so I've always played sports games too, but I think I started to get away from sports games when college football went away.
Right.
It's funny, like I told you, like I go hang out with my one buddy. We played college football, like NCAA football 2010. Yeah. Even though we both have PlayStation 4s. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
We still play NCAA football 2010 on the PlayStation 3. And we just sit around, drink bourbon, and play that. So I'm still, when people are like, Justin, you're 40. I'm like, sure I am. I'm like 12 at best.
I mean, it's a good way to just put your mind in a different avenue of kind of productivity thinking, plus, and that'll translate to other benefits and make you more productive in your own lifestyle and work. And plus, it's a way to cut loose and just relax and have fun.
Yeah, I think that's another reason why I don't do online stuff is because I spend so much time, on social media and online anyway. It's like, man, do I really want to like talk to more people and do shit with more people? It's like, no, man, I just want to do my own thing. It's almost like sometimes playing a video game like that is sort of like reading a book, where you're like, okay, you're just going to go about this story on your own and just sort of experience it in your own way. And so that's just kind of what I do. It's interesting. And what you said, too, about changing the game names is important, too.
Yeah.
I've always... But I still, I want to get my hands on original Dragon Warrior. Man, I love that game.
Yeah.
That's so much fun.
It's funny that you mentioned Ataris. That Sandy and I were watching... so, our nightly routine after we put the halfling down for bed is that we'll fix our dinner and then we'll sit down and we'll watch, an hour, maybe an hour and a half of TV while we're eating, and then we'll go to bed after that. And we've been watching a documentary on the history and kind of the evolution of the original Atari system and how it grew from the arcades and came into the home setting. And they reference all of the old ColecoVision system. And we're about halfway through it now. And then they just kicked out Nolan Bushnell, the guy who basically founded Atari. They basically said, we don't want you around here anymore. And it reminded me a lot of when Steve Jobs got kicked out of Apple for that time. And then he eventually came back and saved the company.
Yeah, because actually you mentioned that too. Like arcades were a big deal, back in the day, man. Like still when I was a kid, holy shit, everybody went to the mall and played the arcade, man. Then you had it in your home, and it was kind of like, I guess that was the beginning of the end for all of us getting out. And that's when social distancing first started, man. Because I've been doing social distancing for 30-some years. Because once they put it where you didn't have to leave the house to go play video games, you're like, well, screw it, I'll just stay home.
And we are now back full circle to our initial talking point of the coronavirus. Oh my goodness. So yeah, man, any other goodies land on your doorstep this week?
Yeah, actually, so there's a few cool things and then we'll probably can follow up next week because a couple things that I actually ordered. But so, James, Boca James, right, behind a lot of brands, he sent me this Citizen Nutrition. I actually just got it today. Mm-hmm. So this is actually another cool one where he showed me the formula and I was like, man, I dig that.
Yeah.
Have you checked out this one yet?
CZNU? No, I have not.
Yeah, it's like CZNU.
Yeah, I remember seeing the product label come out.
Yeah, it's very much like another product. The timing is pretty cool with some of these things because this isn't something I don't think that I would use as a pre-workout. You could use it prior to exercise, I think, but it's mostly, it's headlined by, well, it's got inulin at 1.5 grams. Then it's got carnitine tartrate at a gram, tyrosine, caffeine, DMAE. It's got PEA, theobromine, theanine, coleus. So it's got some cool. It's got some 5-HTP too, which is interesting. But this is sort of like, I think this is kind of an energy drink on steroids, rather than like a pre-workout or something like that. But this is a really cool. I really like this formula, especially as we're going to be spending more time indoors and sort of working and maybe because that's one thing I've been sort of preaching a little bit on the page is as everyone's panicking, this is also a really good time to get ahead. There's so many things that we have to put off because we're just so busy. We're so busy all the time, right? It's like, well, if I only had a few extra hours a day, well, now some people don't have commutes that kill them. Some people have to get up hours before they're actually supposed to be at work. Well, now we got time, and we've been preaching this to our clients as well. It's like, hey, stock up some content, stock up whatever you need to do now. Maybe you sort of get a reboot of some processes that you can put in place. So that's what we're trying to do too, is sort of streamline the process. So when life after Corona does happen, which will happen,
hopefully sooner rather than later.
Right, exactly. We can sort of hit the ground running. So, but this is the type of product that'll, when you're trying to do things like that, organizational tasks, stuff like that, which I think is really cool. So it kind of fits in. It's like the Mastermind, I suppose, in a way, but different. So.
Yeah. The dosages. I've noticed a trend with a lot of the companies he's been involved with in their nootropic formulas is that they are very heavy on the caffeine in their nootropic formulas. Because when they were with MyoBlocks, it was 400 milligrams of caffeine for a full serving. Is he still doing stuff with the Gorilla Chemist and Chemics, or is this the new brand that he's doing now?
He sort of is doing his own thing now, which is cool because he's got a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. But he's away from Chemics. He doesn't work for them anymore. But you're 100% right, and I think that still ties into the fact that most people aren't ready to use products that don't have a couple hundred milligrams of caffeine in them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even if it's totally not necessary, I just don't think people are yet at that point. They're still going to want that caffeine in there. They're still going to. It's why people reach for Bangs and stuff like that. It's got 300 milligrams of caffeine. People are just like, oh, I know what that's going to do. So I think that's probably why they still do that.
Yeah, people I think rely very heavily on the sensory experience. And as a teaser for next week's podcast with Jacob from the Nutrition Store, I was talking to him about their Enjoy the Ride formula and saying, you got beta-alanine in there, and he says, I didn't really want to put it in there, but we've had so many of our customers come in here saying, we want the tingles in it. We like that. Whether it actually confers any acute benefit or, tangible benefit, clinically significant effect in our training sessions, they said, it doesn't really matter. They just like to have, they like that tingle. It makes it feel like it's hitting harder and all that. So, as much as I shit on certain ingredients being included in pre-workouts, the sensory experience does play into it. I mean, obviously, think about the same thing with food. Look at food. If you have a plate of gruel, it's very unappetizing. But if you took the same ingredients and assembled them in a very aesthetically pleasing layout, you're going to be more inclined to, try the food, maybe find it more delicious, and all of those kind of things too. So there's more than just what's on the label, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's just a comfort and trust factor with people in caffeine that they go, I don't have a damn clue what any of these other ingredients do, but I know what caffeine does, so
exactly
we can stick with the caffeine. No, I totally agree. So it's I think we'll just see that continue. I don't think people are really ever going to be ready to give up their caffeine, which is so it actually is a good segue into another product that I just ordered. I think people will laugh when I say that I ordered it, but so Prady just dropped their new Dynamite infused Total Focus product.
Total Focus, yes.
He's one of those people that struggles with that, right? Because he's like, AZOTH didn't have caffeine in it, didn't need caffeine in it,
correct.
But people want caffeine. So they're sort of retooling what they're doing a little bit. And even though he is my business partner at Supplement Snoop, I just bought some of the Total Focus because I want to give the Dynamite a try. And now I'm going to go on all kinds of tangents at the same time, but I'll come back to the point that I like the Total Focus formula because it's not an overwhelmingly big formula.
Yeah.
Which also ties into Alpha Lion and their superhuman burn. It's got the Baiba in it.
Yeah.
So we're seeing these new ingredients, Baiba and Dynamite. So if they show up in a formula of 37 ingredients, how do you know it's doing anything? So Alpha Lion is dropping a standalone Baiba, just Baiba. So I was like, that's cool because there's a lot of people who are going to be wondering about this.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to stock up on that. I said, I'm going to try that. So you can try Dynamite in a smaller formula. It goes back to the whole, are these massive formulas cool? Of course they are. But, you kind of got to start small first and go, okay, is this good? Do I need this? Do I need this? Sort of tack it on a little bit. So a couple of standalone products, although Total Focus isn't standalone, it's heavy on the Dynamite. It's sort of...
Yeah, it's got 200 milligrams of Dynamite in it, 200 milligrams of rhodiola, and 50 milligrams of pure calf organic caffeine. For the listeners out there that have not seen the supplement facts panel or have not read the Dynamite article that's on the Supplement Engineer site, shameless plug right there, go read that article so you can understand what in the hell Dynamite is, because I'm pretty sure it's the only quality article on the internet diving into what the actual study showed, how it worked, and all of that. That's not just regurgitating product literature.
No, that article was amazing. And actually, so someone asked me about Cyanamide. I did Compound Solutions Q&A today, takeover. And I tagged you this morning because someone asked me about Cyanamide. And I was like, to be honest with you, pretty much everything I'm about to tell you about Cyanamide is from Robert's article. So I'm not going to take credit for it.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
That article was a monster. And it was really, really good. And it actually does, because someone asked me, how does that compare to a T-Creen or a Dynamine? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, in a way, the end result might feel somewhat similar,
right?
But they get there through different ways.
Correct. Yeah, so, different mechanisms of action. So it'd be cool to put them together, I think, and see. It'd just be an expensive ass formula if you did.
So, which is interesting about Prady putting a little bit of caffeine in there, plus some Xynamide. I think the caffeine will make people feel more comfortable about buying it. Plus, it can work together with the Xynamide. And so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I ordered it today. I was like, I'm not going to ask him to send. Hey, man, send me some. So I just bought some. But I'm looking forward to that one. That's a cool one. I'm definitely going to buy some of the standalone Baiba from Alpha Lion, which is cool. And I did get to. Here's something we can talk about.
Yeah.
That maybe actually we should talk about on a totally different podcast. But there is, we're both friends with Sarah from Bomar Nutrition. But there is a lot of women doing some cool things in the space. Normally, predominantly done by men.
Yeah.
I just put in an order with Devotion Nutrition also. Dana over there, I've been talking to her a lot lately, so I decided they're the ones that do. It's simple, brilliant idea.
You said basically, Devotion is the supplement line?
Devotion Nutrition, yeah. You haven't seen it?
No.
You're gonna say the same thing I did. You're gonna be like, holy shit, why didn't somebody think of that before? And this is simple brilliance. Totally.
Protein powder.
I'll show you a couple things. So they have protein powder, but then they have a huge line of the flavorings. And they actually have some really unique ones. Like I thought butter is a good one. They have like butter powder.
Yeah, angel food cake, birthday cake, Boston cream pie, cinnamon crunch, creme brulee, coconut biscotti. Holy shit, fruity hoops.
Yeah, man. So Dana is a really good follow on Instagram. She's super nice, and I ordered. So what did I do here? So these flex flavors, there's some really cool stuff. Like this is almost, you know what it kind of is though too, and it's almost like it's too good of an idea right now. Like you're gonna have to sort of help people, like this golden butter flex flavor. Like how great is that? You see people use it with all kinds of different things. Put it on. She shows some recipes like popcorn and all this other stuff.
Yeah, low calorie. I wonder if the butterfly is it any different than butter buds, or is it similar to that? I've never tried butter buds, but I'm wondering if they're close to that or something.
I'm not sure. So what I did was I bought the coffee favorites and the oatmeal favorites.
Yeah.
And so it gives you probably about 12 different flavors. It seems to sort of. I'm always looking for something to do with my coffee too. As much as I'm sort of a coffee purist in a way, it's like I like a good coffee just black. But who doesn't like to throw a little flavor in it sometimes? And if it doesn't come with any punishment from macros, especially. So I think the really cool thing about what Devotion did here, the idea was, we'll give you the protein powder, but now people are always wanting to try. You get through. It's hard to get through a full tub of protein. You get sick of it. So they're like, okay, we're going to give you the base protein, but then we're going to give you all these little things that you can just sort of mix and match as you sort of go along.
Smart.
And a lot of them go together. I'm like, why didn't we think of this? What the hell? So anyway,
it's almost so obvious. You just don't even think about it.
Exactly. So I've been talking to Dana a lot, and like I said, she does a lot of cool stuff on Instagram, sort of helps people. But it's cool. This is the type of stuff that happens, right? When women get involved, they just have good ideas.
Different point of view than everything. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna
Good
have to. We'll have to reach out to her and see if we can get her on the podcast to talk about where they came up with this idea and what they wanted to do and all of that stuff. So yeah.
Actually, that's interesting because she said, I know that's one thing is they have a really cool story behind them, and she's like, that's just kind of where we're at. She's like, we just want to get our story out there.
Yeah.
The way it is right now, man. Everybody fighting for territory in a small space.
I also wonder if she is a New Orleans native or she has family down there, because there are 2 different Mardi Gras king cake inspired recipes on the site. So yeah, I wonder if there's some NOLA running through her heritage or not.
Oh, and here's a great one thing I love. I always love to read the R story segments on a company's website.
Yeah.
For all you entrepreneurs out there, so Devotion Nutrition, we're talking about this now. It's 2020, right? And we're talking about what a brilliant idea it is. You look on her website, 2013 was when her idea came about. So you're talking, that's 7 years, ago. So you think this is an overnight thing? Like, oh, she just came up with this 6 months ago. So you see a little bit of they did a rebrand in 2018 and still a rebrand 2 years ago.
Yep.
So cool stuff. I told her I really love this idea. I was like, I'm not a person that does advertisements or, I don't do that, what a lot of people do. I said, but if I see something cool, I was like, I'm happy to tell people about that. Because I think it's a freaking great idea.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very cool idea. It should be something interesting to check out.
It's always good anyway. Like I said, something we see. I really have a lot of respect for what Sarah does at Bomar.
Mm-hmm.
And women always, they take more shots than guys do. It's just the way it goes, especially when you're in a place of, authority and things like that.
Yeah.
The way it is, like Sarah was talking today about she's traveling and people are telling her they hope that she gets the coronavirus because she's traveling. It's just like,
it's fucked up.
I don't know, man. It's just like,
that's
so
really
I just, I mentioned, and not to get philosophical about this, but I said, one positive, hopefully, from this whole thing, this coronavirus thing, is maybe when it's over, we sort of rethink about our priorities and the type of shit that we say to each other. Like, well, am I going to spend all day, starting a petition because I didn't like the way my favorite TV show ended? Or maybe just appreciate the fact that I'm allowed to fucking go outside and go to the gym.
Right. Yeah.
I'm very simple in my age these days. People always ask me about the gym. I'm like, I just appreciate being able to go.
Yeah.
And being healthy enough. Like, there's a lot of people that don't have that would love, through no fault of their own, possibly maybe they, were in an accident, or it's like, man, I'm still able to, at 40 years old, to go to the gym and just crush it whenever I want.
Right.
So you should be just like, what are you worried about then? Like, what are you bitching about? Like TV shows and politics and all this kind of stuff? Like, so hopefully maybe we get a little perspective from this whole thing. So
we shall see.
That's my rant for the week. So anyway, good stuff. Good on the women doing some cool stuff in this space.
Yeah.
I think Dana's another one. So I'm looking forward to getting that stuff in the mail. I'm actually getting a Bomar package. I ordered a couple things from her.
Sweet.
So we could probably talk about that next week. Cool.
Excellent. How was the live at Compound Solutions?
Well, it wasn't a live. I just did Q&A.
All right, so I'm very stupid with Instagram. You're gonna have to tell me what's the difference between the two.
Well, a live is live.
Okay, so you basically just put the camera on you and you just start talking to it, and people can ask you questions on the fly?
Yep. So what you do when you do a Q&A is I will put up a question sticker that someone can type in a question, and I can get to it at any point, say, over the next 24 hours.
So how do you, don't you have to hit the live button to go and start recording what you're saying and upload it as a video?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, so there's some pros and cons with this. So the way Instagram does it, if someone asks me a question, it can be kind of a tedious process, but once you get used to it, it's not a big deal. But you can only answer in 15-second spurts if you keep the sticker on there. So if someone asks me a question in the sticker box, you know, if I put a question sticker up and say, hey, ask me a question. Like first thing this morning, last night Compound Solutions put a sticker up, and this morning I put a sticker up. So people are just filling up that box with their questions.
Yeah.
Now when I go to answer them, say if you ask me a question like, hey, Justin, how's it feel to be an old fart? You know?
Yeah.
Anytime I answer that question specifically through what you do, it would alert you that I answered your question.
Gotcha.
So you have to do it 15 seconds at a time, which can be kind of tedious and kind of a pain in the ass. But so that's just what I do is throughout the day as I get sort of blocks of time, I'll just go check out what questions are there, and then I'll answer them, you know, kind of as I go along. So that's what I do. I do it every day on the Supplement Snoop page. Usually in the morning I have a little bit of time, and then I go to the gym, and then maybe later on in the afternoon I'll come back and answer whatever other questions popped up.
Yeah, and I've seen you. I know you do that, and I've seen the questions come through. I was curious from your standpoint, how do you actually set it up to do that? Because I've never messed with doing any of that or anything, and I realize it's something I probably should be doing. But
you would get a lot of questions.
Yeah, and I love to help people, and that's when Sana and I were just talking about this. She said, "Where do you see yourself in the industry? You know, where do you see yourself going with your career and all of that stuff?" Not that she's pressuring me to go one way or the other. We're just trying to figure out, I'm always just curious, where am I going to be in 5 to 10 years with this industry? Because I jumped into it just starting to write, and it's branched out exponentially in the 5 years, which this past weekend I hit my 5-year anniversary of leaving engineering and doing supplement stuff and health and fitness writing and all that full time, which is kind of cool. But I always, this is where I struggle with, I guess, creating content for my own site, the Supplement Engineer site, is that I very rarely get a burning passion or desire to write something. Nothing ever gets, I'm a very chill individual by nature. I don't really get worked up in a tizzy about something, but if somebody asks me a question or comes and says, hey, exactly, yeah. And somehow, I was talking with Jacob yesterday when we were recording a podcast. He brought up S7. He said it was such a bunch of bullshit. I thought, oh my god, what did I start when I went on my
Sorry, I didn't mean to get you. I didn't mean to get you on the tangent. Go ahead.
It's all good.
Go ahead.
But yeah, I do so much better, and I'm so much writing, speaking, whatever. It comes to me so much easier when I'm given a prompt or I'm just having a conversation with you or just anybody, if I'm at a bar or something and somebody mentions something about supplements because they'll see me working on something. And it's much easier to do that than if I'm just sitting around thinking, what do I want to write today? What issue should I tackle? What ingredient should I look? I very rarely do I have that kind of internal fire to go and jump on something. It's for a purpose, and I guess that's probably the engineering side of my brain, is that I see a problem, I'm given a problem, and then I think about the most effective way and the most efficient way to deconstruct it and solve it. And so that's, for better or worse, that's the way my brain has always kind of been since I transitioned to this industry.
Yeah, man. So I can just tell you that the Q&As have changed the trajectory of Supplement Snoop completely. And it was totally by accident. So, when it was about a year ago when we launched the app, and Pretty and I were doing a lot of conversations. We're like, okay, so how do we market this? Email marketing, creating content, all this other stuff. Yeah. And quite frankly, man, I'm like, I fucking hate creating content. Like, it's just the same shit over and over and over again. Yeah. It's like, it's not sustainable for me.
Correct.
So in the meantime, as we're sort of like, okay, I guess it's marketing, like, in a way, like, okay, we're going to start talking about the app and stuff. And then just one day I was kind of like, hey, if you have any questions for me, let me know. Yeah. Like, I saw other people doing the Q&As. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I had like 40 questions the first day. And I'm like, so I never have to create our own content if I don't want to. People are constantly creating it for me. So, and not only that, but because of the way Supplement Snoop is set up, people are like, wait a minute, it's $20 a month. Like, what am I really getting? But I can talk them through it through daily Q&A conversations. A lot of people ask me about the app, or there's just an inherent trust factor that you need when you're going to ask somebody to invest $20 a month into whatever it is you're selling.
Right.
Because people are used to being screwed over these days, and for good reason, they're always on guard, as they should be.
Right.
But once people follow along with me for a little while, usually they just get it.
Yeah.
So it's solved. It's literally, dude, has solved all our problems. I don't have to create content. it keeps me in the loop because I don't like, you know me, man. I don't like reading other people's crap and listening to their podcasts but by letting the consumer tell me what they're thinking, I know I know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Right. And now think about that. You have all these companies out there. It's why if you ever see who follows my Q&As, there is a lot of company owners, tons, because all they're doing, right, what their goal is they want this information.
Right.
What are consumers thinking? What are they talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, for God's sakes, look at the targeting that people do trying to get your data, trying to learn about it's priceless information for these companies. And so that's why they follow along with what I do.
Nice.
But it's good for us. It's really rewarding for me. It keeps me excited because honestly, like you said, we've talked about this a lot. How many more times are you going to write about creatine or carnitine or
right?
It's all. I mean, it's just so. And I would never. I've done the Q&A every single day for over a year now. Literally, not miss one day.
It's impressive.
There's no way. Even if I'm at the airport, if I'm on vacation, doesn't matter. I still do it. But because it's fun, to just have that is so rewarding for me, that dialogue, that interact. Because man, you wake up. It's not like I wake up in the morning every day like, yeah, let's talk about some supplements.
Right.
But when you see how important it is to other people to talk about certain things, it energizes you, it motivates you to keep going. So it's changed everything about what we do, and it was totally by accident.
Yeah,
completely by accident. I never in a million years. Plus, now we don't have to waste our time with recording content all the time and emails and shit that I don't want to do.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, man.
We're big on that whole find your niche and go with it. And people seem to really like when I do it. So I'm like, well, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. You mentioned the app's $20 a month. I mean, I feel like I can get everything I need just by Googling, which is free. So do I really have to pay that $20 a month?
You're just right. You're just paying the $20 a month for. It's not like you pay for it. You're not.
It's all on Google, man. Why am I getting ripped off by you? That's shameless.
Yeah. No, I mean, no. That's actually a pretty common question. Like people are like, oh, because I'm like, well, I was like, if you could Google it, because that's just the whole goal behind it is. So you take this overwhelming amount of information, but then what do you do with it? It's like we mentioned how the app is kind of like a textbook. The app sort of streamlines the process for you, but then what? You can't just say, okay. It's like, does knowing this information about this ingredient, but how does that help my life? So that's how we sort of try to take it to another level of what do we do with all this stuff we're learning? Because just providing data is just providing data, but what do you do with it? Is key, can it help people's lives? So
it gives another layer of critical thinking and critical analysis to something. Otherwise, we've discussed this before about gaming the system on the search engines with SEO and all that, to where if you just type in an ingredient, you might just be inundated by their marketing literature, and you'll end up thinking S7 is the God's gift to nitric oxide production or something. So, because all you see is 230% increase in nitric oxide production, and improves blood flow, and then you dial down into a lone study and realize. So.
Yep, and it's amazing because I know I can't even tell you how many messages I've got that are exactly the same. People go, well, I was skeptical at first, but the first day I got the app in the group, I was like, I get it. I just saved myself thousands of dollars over the next God knows how long. So
correct, yeah.
That's another reason too why I don't give a shit when people criticize it, because I was like, I know we're doing the right thing.
Right.
If anything, I was like, people are like, oh, would you bring the price down? I was like, no. I was like, if anything, I would bring the price up because it is worth far more than $20 a month. But
and your time is valuable. I mean, our time is money for us, whether in a consulting role or your content creation mode or app development mode for you and Brady, to where everything you have to decide where is your time best spent, and the more time you spend not getting paid for doing things related to your business is money out the door that you'll never see.
100%. And I think that was one big thing that I would have to credit Brady with the most is he was like, Justin, he's like, it's really hard to put a value on your own time. Yeah. He's like, but, he he was like, you have to really sort of put that in perspective a little bit more of what your time, like what you're actually doing, because it's easy. He's the same exact way. Like we do the consulting program together. I'll give you a little window into that world.
Yeah.
He will do anything for someone else that really wants to learn. I mean, to the point where I'm like, dude, stop doing so much.
Yeah.
Because you just want to help, right? You want to help, you want to give, but at the same time, you can't do that.
Correct.
You have to look out for yourself also first. So it's like being selfish and selfless at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I always say in order to be selfless, you have to be selfish first. And
right.
that was one thing he definitely taught me, was to be really, it's like we talked about, like, what's the one thing you can't get back? You can't get back time. We all have the same 24 hours. He's like, protect that with everything you have, because you can never get that back.
Yes,
so it's, it's a learning process. We, you have to keep yourself cognizant of it all the time, because the same as you, man. It's like, if someone asks you a question, you want to help.
Right, yeah.
So at the same time,
then at every point you have to cut the cord eventually, because otherwise it just becomes this never-ending giving tree scenario.
There you go. Giving tree scenario. Good call.
Yeah, and then eventually you're plucked, you're fruitless, and you die. There's the ending for the book, folks. Sorry about ruining for you. So
other than that, man, that was a lot. That was a lot we talked about.
It was deep. Did you get any surprising questions on the compound Q&A, or anything off the wall that you had caught you off guard, or you weren't sure about, or just was there a particular trend of topics? Because I know they do a lot of keto and fat related stuff on their site and on their feed. So I'm curious, did you get inundated with a bunch of keto related questions or not?
No, I did take a couple shots of keto, but so one thing I did talk about was someone asked me a really cool question. They said, hey, come up with a pre-workout just based off compound solution ingredients. And what I did was, and it was kind of funny because I was like, okay, all keto people, I was like, you're about to flip out and pick your jaws off the floor. But I said, and based on the conversation we had with Joey about the hybrid, I said, I'm going to take Carb 10 and BHB, and I'm going to put that in a pre-workout.
Yeah.
And I was like, now everyone take a breath after what I just said. Like, it's okay. So when I sort of started to explain the conversation we had with him, and I said, I don't know what the answer is there. I said, but I know from what I've experienced, and I know that it's something that I would like to mess with a little bit more. Using carbs and ketones at the same time before a workout, because you have the carbs for the performance, ketones maybe for the brain boosting, effects, and rather than just attacking it from yet another choline donor or acetylcholinesterase inhibitor kind of perspective, it's like maybe we might have something here.
Yeah. Have you noticed a significant influx just in your Q&As in general in immune-related supplements, immune-boosting supplements?
Yeah. I did some preemptive strikes about that. I started talking about, because I was like, I cautioned people right away. I was like, everybody slow down.
Right.
Immune system, especially, a lot of that stuff is things that you really need to be taking in advance.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like
shoring up your defensive line.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people. It's not that it's a bad thing to start megadosing vitamin C for short periods of time and stuff like that. But at the same time, really, I sort of shifted the focus away from just immunity stuff, and I said, let's focus on a couple of other things. Let's focus on stress, because everyone's stressed, everyone's panicking.
Yeah.
Stress hurts your immune system.
Correct.
Probably, more than anything.
Right. And
then you're not sleeping. So we started talking about sleep hygiene, sleep health, stress management. I said, I could sit here and go, start taking some vitamin D and take some, you should be taking that anyway.
Yeah.
But it's like all this stuff for immune system. I said, I think that those are kind of add-ons. Like the low-hanging fruit is the stress and the sleep.
Yeah.
And then you can start tacking on these little ancillary sort of products and things like that. So I was like, let's get back to the basics of where your immune system is going to suffer from most,
right?
And that's going to be from panic and stress and
yeah.
lack of sleep and stuff like that. Because then you can really set yourself up to be vulnerable, or not taking care of yourself properly after a workout.
Right.
You know, and sometimes a lot of people use a lot of stims and they really push their body past certain limitations,
mm-hmm.
And then they don't recover properly. You leave yourself open to, you know, getting sick and stuff like that. So we talk a lot about going a little different direction with it, getting people maybe think about it from a different perspective. But it's a big topic.
Yeah. I think it's disingenuous and, you know, downright almost dangerous for companies to be saying, oh, well, this supplement will cure X disease, X virus. You know, this will make you immune to corona or the flu or anything like that. That's way overstepping the line and gross negligence to a degree that is not. You know, there's enough people that shit on the supplement industry already and trying to capitalize on this through saying our immune boosting supplement will cure this or help, you know, prevent you from getting the coronavirus. I think that's really bad. It's cheap.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
But, you know, and that was another thing we talked about, positives from this whole thing. I made a comment yesterday. I said, you notice how, like, all of a sudden, what does everyone care about? They care about the health-based supplements.
Yeah.
I was like, the positive from this is you'll start to, maybe these people will start. So when the panic strikes and your health is at risk, people aren't looking for what's the next pre-workout, what's the next pump product. They're thinking immune system boosting, multivitamins. So
toilet paper.
Right. But don't wait until there's a pandemic to think about stuff like this. So they're going to start to realize if people in the educational part of this whole industry, because you don't want to come off as predatory, right, as well, like you're trying to take advantage of people, but if you're able to articulate to people why this stuff is important, it can start to sink in, like, oh, suddenly pre-workouts were here, health-based, and maybe if I get to it, now all of a sudden health-based is here.
Right.
What do we do post-corona to keep that there and pre-workouts and stuff down here?
Yeah.
So making sure that people remain focused on products like that. I said that there's a lot of retailers doing some cool things. You know, there's a lot of retailers out there that they get by selling SARMs and they sell gray air pre-workouts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of retailers that have for years been trying to get people to focus on this foundational health-based stuff.
Yep.
And I'm hoping that as this passes, those same retailers will benefit from a shift in focus in people. Because I think people are going to realize too, wow, supplements can help.
Yeah.
When used correctly and health-based and stuff like that.
Right.
So I'm hoping that this actually does help the future of the supplement industry.
Right.
I think there's an opportunity for us to change the narrative and shift the focus to what's really important.
Yeah.
There's some companies doing some cool things. Hopefully we can talk more about stuff like that rather than everybody arguing over citrulline dosages and weird things and S7 and stuff like that. So
agreed, man. Yeah.
That's my hope.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I was talking with, my younger sister is a pharmacist in a hospital that does the compounding and mixing up the drugs and all that stuff. And I said, you know, would any of these things, I said, if you're trying to target a virus and create some kind of antiviral thing or, you know, a cure for a virus or something, is it something that is more broad spectrum or is it something that's strain specific to where you need to identify this? Because I'm not an immunologist. I'm not an expert in infectious diseases and all this stuff. At the same time, I still want to know what possible avenues could supplements fortify the immune system. And she said, it's just because something has an antiviral property, it's much more specific than that. It could be targeting a certain strain or a certain set of viruses, but not necessarily could be overlooking some other ones. So any supplement that's claiming to have potent antiviral activities, it might do that, but it's not necessarily going to prevent you from corona or any other SARS, MERS, H1N1, avian bird flu, all of that shit.
Yeah, because I think the people that we talk to that really do know this stuff, they're like, it's a very tricky strain. It's it changes, you know, it's very elusive, I think was the way that some people explained it, which is good. So it's like, I mean, you can megadose vitamin C, but if it's as effective as it seems like, then, but it's something that, like I said, hopefully people learn some lessons through this that take with ourselves beyond all this, because there will be life after.
Yeah, and as much as if you've been following most of it, it's the people that are most susceptible are the ones that are already old, already sick, or immunocompromised, and so this further emphasizes the importance of being fit, eating a good diet, staying physically active, trying to make yourself, prevention is the best medicine in this case. Try to make your body as rock solid and strong as possible, and then you will have, even if you do get sick, you'd be that much more able to overcome, withstand, and, beat it.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of this stuff, like what we do on a day-to-day basis, the exercising and using supplements stuff, it's just trying to improve the odds,
right?
Really. Yeah. I mean, you don't know. So, right. But yeah, I think it's just trying to play the best hand possible. There's not a lot of concrete stuff we can really hang on to at this point. You're just trying to do the best you can, and hopefully this, like I said, hopefully it gets people to shift that focus back to. And then it's an election year. We know how bad that's going to be.
Yeah.
With the way people treat each other and talk to each other about that, and
correct.
Just it's kind of like maybe we kind of needed. I would never say like, oh, it's a good thing because you have people dying and suffering and it's horrible, but at the same time it's like one thing we can hopefully take from it is just maybe a little more perspective with what's important to us, what really matters, what we should be
Agreed.
panicking and freaking out and talking shit to each other about.
Yeah.
We'll see. That's just it's my hope in my old age, man. That's just me,
Gotcha. Let's, before we do that, we'll end on one final supplement topic so we're not ending on a downer because there's enough negativity and stress surrounding viruses and whatnot. Interesting. So, what company popularized the BCAA supplement? Xtend. Do you find it at all interesting that they are now releasing an essential amino acid formula?
They are?
Yes, called Perfect 10. So it says, the preview from Stacked, it says, Xtend brand has several versions of flagship that are all BCAA with the signature 7-gram blend of 3 BCAAs. The brand has previewed their first ever EAA-based product featuring Perfect 10, which is featuring a balanced blend of essential amino acids. Shane and the guys at Stack 3D have yet to see the formula, but it says it's got 10 different amino acids in it. 9 of those are EAAs, and they're postulating that one of the other ones might be glutamine, since glutamine and citrulline malate are both in regular Xtend, if memory serves me. So yeah, that's.
I thought you said we were going to end on a positive.
I'm curious to get your feedback on that and just see. Do you find it at all hypocritical, just adapting to changing science? Because it's. What are your thoughts on it?
Adapting to changing science, they would have done it 6 years ago.
Very true.
I think I will be curious to see how they're going to spin. Because anytime you see a company, and we'll use Nutrex, I really like Nutrex, but something that I thought was just asinine that they did was, I saw an ad for their EAA supplement one time, and it literally said, better than whey. And I was like, well, they have this whole huge line of protein supplements. I was like, so how do you
you just shot yourself in the foot.
Why would you say that? Like, first of all, that's total horseshit.
Right.
But second of all, why would you say that your amino supplement? Well, it's a lot cheaper to make an amino supplement, but
yeah.
So I was just out of sheer morbid curiosity, I'm just a little interested to see how Xtend will market this as opposed to their BCA supplement.
Right. And
if they'll just put it out there and be like,
yeah, just hope nobody notices or calls them out on it.
Yeah, because that's I would, at this point,
yeah,
it's kind of like so Core. I was curious to see what Core was going to do. Core put the essential aminos into their
their new Core
intra.
Yeah,
but they've always held pretty firm. Like Kenton, he talked about BCAs. They've always stated that ABC formula has always been aminos, some citrulline, glutamine, sort of in a Xtendish sort of vibe. And they stuck with it. They had this rebrand. I was curious. I was like, I wonder if they're gonna. But that's what they stuck with. So I was like, if you're gonna go with that, then just stick with it. I mean, it's kind of. Xtend is.
Yeah, and on the window dressing of the product label, it says perfectly engineered EAA ratio. I'm curious to see how they perfectly engineered this EAA ratio for optimal protein.
I bet you can guess what it is. I bet you don't even need to see the label.
I probably could.
All right, well, let's actually find something. Let's talk about.
Ghost is releasing a gaming supplement, which would be cool. There's no real details on it yet, but I mean, they usually do.
See the formula.
You
did? Dan shared the formula with me,
nice.
And I tell you what, that's a badass label. I'm not, we were like labels, don't really matter, but
it's a cool. It's an eye-catching label.
Label. Plus, they're big gamers, so it's kind of like a passion project for them.
Yeah.
But you'll see it, and you'll be like, it's expensive formula. I tell you that much. Which is usually the bullshit behind gaming supplements is it's a cheap knockoff of a nootropic, and they make great margins on it because it's slightly better than an energy drink, but it sucks compared to nootropics.
Yeah.
This one, you'll see it and go, well played, Ghost.
Yep.
Good job.
Yep.
Let's also, how about the NutraBio Irish whiskey cream flavor for St. Patrick's Day?
Have you had a chance to try it? Did you get it at all or not? I think it's a cool flavor. I mean, I did a trio sampling of Irish whiskeys over the weekend at a friend's house.
Sure. I didn't get to try it. I know, like, even places, it's a super limited run. Even, like, I think Natural Body Inc. said they only got 6.
Wow.
Of these. So it's very limited. So I wasn't going to be like, hey, you made,
Mark.
I don't know, a couple of them, like, send me one.
Right.
But I would like to buy it, but I also...
You got enough protein already.
I don't know if I can justify buying protein powder. But I would like to try it. I think hopefully, in the Supplement Snoop group, there's a massive supplement exchange program that happens in there. So I'm going to see if maybe somebody buys one and see if I can get a scoop.
Go for it, man.
Looks cool.
Yeah.
They did a good job. I think that's one benefit. That's one advantage that they have doing their own manufacturing is they can run these small batches.
Yeah.
And do some cool things. So good job, NutraBio. Looks cool. I bet you it's going to taste good.
Yeah. I would agree. For our to play us out, we've got I know you like the guys over at Alpha Line, and we touched on them earlier. They've released now Superhuman Burn, which is going to be kind of their thermogenic or fat-burning pre-workout. So have you had a chance to see the label on this?
I've been using it for about 3 weeks, I would say.
Okay. All right. Well, then let me do a quick ingredient rundown, and then you can give us kind of your recap on how you liked it. So we got 4 grams of L-citrulline, 3.6 of beta-alanine, 1 gram of taurine, 225 of caffeine anhydrous, 225 of theanine, 100 milligrams of Infinergy, so we're going to get another 75 milligrams of caffeine there. So it brings a total of 300 caffeine to the entire formula. We got 500 milligrams of MitoBurn, which is their BIABA thing that we were talking about earlier, 100 milligrams of cocobutyrol, 100 milligrams of Advantra Z standardized to 50% synephrine, 40 milligrams of Grains of Paradise standardized to 12.5% 6-paradol, which that's the same standardization as paradoxine, a gram of choline bitartrate, a gram of Alcar, a gram of L-tyrosine, 25 estrogen, and 5 bioperine, or bioperin, however you want to say it.
Yeah, I can say that is an expensive, because I know BIABA is expensive. That's an expensive freaking product.
As is cocobutyrol, and I don't think Advantra Z is all that cheap either.
Alcar is actually pretty expensive.
Is it?
Especially at a gram. Yeah, Alcar's pretty pricey.
I guess so. I just bought a 500 gram tub.
Pricey, but it does. It
adds to the cost.
It's more expensive than I remember seeing the price for it. I was like, whoa, that's more expensive than I thought. I think this is cool because it's an actual. You either have a fat burner or a pre-workout. Yeah. Right. That's one thing about fat burners. You never get the performance backbone in fat burners. So what's interesting about this one is the way I've been using it, the way I really like to use it is I'll use like one scoop first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Rather than coffee.
Yeah.
I've been liking it so you get some citrulline, you get some blood flow, a little bit of caffeine and theanine, but then you get sort of that metabolic, hopefully boost. First thing in the morning, you get some alcar, you get some tyrosine. So I think, for me, 2 scoops, I have a certain way that I like my pre-workouts. This is a little bit different, but you still get good. Like I said, there's some niacin and stuff in there too. But this is a cool product. I think that they really did a good job with this one, sort of. And it's kind of another thing. We just really haven't seen. You see a little bit of attempts with this, but this is especially with that Baiba. We saw with the Glaxon product.
Yeah.
They're using that MitoBurn.
Right.
And there's like 4 ingredients in there, and that's a expensive product. But this one, I mean, there's a lot.
Yep.
This is a beast of a formula. So,
yeah.
But one thing I did say about it that I mentioned earlier, they're making standalone MitoBurn. The thing about the problem with using this product is if you wanted me to give you some feedback about MitoBurn, how the hell am I going to do that?
Correct.
Because I'm like, well, I don't know. There's caffeine and there's theanine and there's Bantrazine, Cocobutyl, and Calibrain. It's like, well, right. I don't know. I'm like, I feel the Baiba working. But now if you get to use a standalone too, then that's cool. And then if people use the standalone and like it, you can upgrade to something like this.
Correct.
It's also a good alternative for people. They have a very high energy, high stim superhuman.
Yep.
This is a nice alternative because it does still give you the performance benefits. That's what's always lacking with products like this is there's no performance considerations usually. So you normally, even a good fat burner type product, you would cut that pump and performance matrix right off there.
Yeah.
You would just see the rest of it. And that would still be a good product, but I like that they tacked on a little bit of stuff there. So anyway, the flavor is really good. It's very like spicy. You can feel that the burn, so to speak.
What do you think's driving this? Because we've seen a surge of these thermogenic pre-workouts the past year, 18, 24 months or so. I mean, Primeval's got a thermogenic pre. Performax used to have their old powdered fat burner FitMax, which that was my favorite energy complex they did. Morphogen Ben's got a powdered thermo coming out. Core Nutritionals has their thermo one. Glaxon guys have a powdered thermo. What do you think is driving this whole thermo pre-workout hybrid that we're seeing?
I just think there's always going to be that market for people that are thinking weight loss. A lot of us are using pre-workouts, but it's not in a weight loss way because you're like, oh, well, I have to have a pre-workout and I have to have a fat burner.
Yeah.
Because there's very rarely both, and I think companies are like, well, everyone usually at some point is like, well, I'm going to cut down or I'm going to do certain things like that. So you're like, oh, if we can come up with something. The products in the past were always just a lot of stims, right? Tons of stims make you feel uncomfortable as shit. You didn't feel like eating. Well, a lot of people don't like that. You know what I mean? Like that's one reason why I don't like to use fat burners because I got to eat.
Yeah.
And I don't like that, some of the way that, you just would see a lot of stims and yoga bodies and stuff like that. And that just sort of got played out. So I think it's cool to see, some formulators stretch our legs a little bit and see if maybe there's a market for stuff like this. So that's cool.
Yeah, cool. All right, man. Well, then thanks for jumping on. We're recording this earlier than usual, so it's a good way. We got some time to either go play video games in your case or go hit a training session in my case. And
I'm going to use that how do you pronounce that? Sunifiram?
Sunifiram, yeah. Courtesy of Game Over of Apollo's Hegemony, which you're not going to find that in a supplement over here in the States. You can find it bulk if you go to like Nootropics Depot or something like that. But you won't find that in a. You shouldn't find that probably in a supplement here. But over in the EU, things are a little bit different. So we're good with that. Thanks
no
again.
agmatine over there. You can't use agmatine.
No agmatine. So yeah, thanks to Lucas again for sending that out to us, man. And as always, you are the man, Justin. Thank you for joining me and shooting the shit with me as always.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon.
We will. Bye.